A History of Monmouthshire, Volume 3, Part 2, Sir Joseph Bradley states that a pre-Roman name for Caerleon is Caeroisk, the fortress on the Usk, or Caerleon ar Usk. Since then, Caerleon's names have included Carlyon, with a K, Caerlyon, double L-Y, Carlyon, with a C, Caerleon, 2 words, 2 L's, and Caerleon, 1 word, in the Domesday Book, as well as Isca Sailur. 11 years before Charles was born, in a survey of 1622, when Caerleon had a Janie Crane Street, it was Carlyon, with a C and an I. The population was then far fewer than the thousands of Roman times. There would have been no toilets as we know them, but instead chamber pots and holes in the ground. And living near the river would have surely been helpful. The river's wharf also meant that Caerleon was prominent in shipping. That 1622 survey states that William Thomas holdeth the foresaid castle of Carlyon, with a great round hill and a fold thereto adjoining, together with a castle bailey, and all the lands belonging to the said round hill or castle, being part of the demesne land of Carlyon. This William Thomas, a mercer who became Sheriff of Monmouthshire, and Charles' great-uncle, acquired wealth in properties which passed to Charles' father Thomas Williams when the great-uncle died. That was in 1632, a year before Charles was born in Castle grounds. Precisely where was that house? Well, nothing points to the castle's remains then being residential. Indeed, later sources point to the inherited house having been on the site of the current Mind House. That's at the corner of the big 19th century wall surrounding the castle's grounds. It's where young Charles' house came to be called Castle Villa or Castle House. Nowadays, there's some blurring of the terminology connected with the items in the large walled area that was once castle grounds. But the corner Mind House is clear, whilst the term the Mind is open to question. Suggestions are mound or from Mynydd, mountain, referring to the mound or motte on which the keep of the castle once stood. To complicate the terminology, there's a newer house named the Mind, amongst others inside the wall. Now, the castle's grounds were largely outside the square of the Roman walls. Nevertheless, Roman expansion beyond the walls meant that some Roman remains would have also been in Charles' backyard, along with the remains of the 13th century stone castle, which had replaced a battle-burned wooden one. The stone castle itself was ruined in the early 15th century rebellions of Owain Glyndŵr against Henry IV. Cox's map shows the remains of the castle walls, the still surviving tower at the Hanbury, a tower further back, and 2 bastions projecting from the riverside. He had previously described a gatehouse tower in Bridge Street and a bridge guarding tower in Ultrapontem. The base of such a tower was discovered not many years ago, then excavated and covered again. The tower on the keep actually survived Charles, only to be weakened by severe frost in 1739 before collapsing. Almshouses were also in the same neighbourhood, for the 1622 survey mentioned Edward Morgan, Edmund's great-grandfather, as the freeholder of Alma House at Lilonga Back. The same survey then commented on the almshouse near the landing place. Not surprisingly, later illustrations place almshouses right there near the Hanbury. In the square outside the Bull, near a cross, stood the market house, conspicuous by its 4 probably Roman pillars that now support the floor of the museum. An outline of the unexcavated amphitheatre would have been visible, as was a building where the priory now stands, though Caerleon Abbey, of early documents, was really Llantarnam Abbey. A.R. Kennelly says that John Morgan of Pencreag was the first to have a building at the priory site. Then, from around 1531, it was held by his daughter Eleanor, with her husband Henry Morgan of Penthline Sarf. It remained residential throughout Charles William's life, when Caerleon extended as far as several houses along the line of the Roman wall adjoining Goldcroft Common. Well before that, the common had a long tradition of fairs, and it was just one of a number of commons in Caerleon. In the 1622 survey, there was also a fuller's or tucking mill, in addition to 2 ancient mills, and the highly informative Caerleon.net quotes a 20th century description of a 17th century mill street with a tan yard full of fellmongers curing sheepskins and hides. Now, the Morgan families had a thing about grand houses, building or owning a collection of mansions that were made to last. These included Llansorth Vower on the Usk Road below Llanhenach, Pentrabach in Pentre Lane, Llantarnam, the nearby Great House, and a house of special interest to us in the Llanhenach area. That house, known today as Pencraig, provides a fascinating insight into Charles William's later life when his brother was occupying Castle Villa, where the castle grounds remained unwalled for long after the Williams generations. The current tall stone surround was built after John Jenkins of the Pontier Tinplate Works took over the site in 1820. It's thought that it was protection against the possibility of a Chartist uprising. In more recent times, the Mynd House became the home and surgery of GP Dr. Russell Rees. He became something of a legend in his own lifetime, partly by revitalising an earlier legend, not of Charles Williams and the duel, but of King Arthur, his knights, and the Round Table. Russell's Forum continues to capture the spirit of the Arthurian legend. From as far back as the 9th century, there have been accounts placing Caerleon at the hub of Arthurian Britain, with the amphitheatre as a round table, and the mound in the castle grounds the resting place of King Arthur and his knights. This is disputed, but it's often been treated as fact, just as the story of the duel between Charles Williams and Edmund Morgan. Edmund lived in the Grand House, surrounded by history, even before it was occupied by a Llantarnam Morgan, Edward, in 1600. The house Penross is on the hill to the left when leaving Caerleon on the Usk Road. In fact, the road to Usk may have once passed alongside Penross, whose name has been known variously as Penross, with and without an H, Penrose, Penross Furdios, and Penross Bourdios, possibly derived from Bordeaux. Penross, along that old route to Usk, was a strategic location almost 2,000 years ago, and the site of a Roman villa, defensive Roman bastions, and further Civil War reinforcements. The significance of Penross was reflected in it being the home of the Lord of Penross, who was also the steward of Caerleon in the 16th century. His line went back a long way in Welsh history.
I'm at the bridge crossing the Avon Lloyd on the Usk Road out of Caerleon. There was an earlier bridge further down the river. Fred Hando's book, Journeys in Gwent, tells us the road is about 200 years old, and that a much older bridge once crossed the river further upstream. The road went on up past Penrose. I'm going over the bridge, across the road, and up the river. We've come 150 yards upstream of the Avon Lloyd, at the site of what could have been an old ford, as it seems to be the shallowest point of the river. Now, could this structure over here have supported a bridge? The bricks are certainly old. You can just see the fingerprints of the person who made the brick. Now, Hando said that the road went up as a hollow way up in deep fields, over the hill past Penrose, and turned at the foot of Llanhenach Hill. I'm at the Leet Farm Gate, at the foot of Llanhenach Hill. The word Leet suggests a water supply to a mill, And indeed there was a corn mill down that road and a skin yard nearby. Penrose is just out of sight over the hill, and Hando's road would have come down, and look, his continuation to Llanhenach. But that's open to debate.